So when I was in school a long time ago, entrepreneurship wasn't a topic. In fact, career wasn't a topic. You took classes, you did tests, and then you earned degrees. And some of us decided to keep getting degrees because it was better to stay in the university womb than face whatever was out there. But eventually you had to figure out a way to sustain yourself financially. The working world was a complete mystery. It's decoded only when you entered it. So social benefit or changing the world, things we talk about all the time now, weren't in our vocabulary. If you were lucky, you stumbled into something you enjoyed and were good at. Or maybe you just did a random walk to the first paycheck, which is kind of what I did. But thankfully, that's changed. And people today are aware of their choices, that there's more than one pathway to follow in a career. There is the traditional path. Get a job in a large organization, a company, a university, a hospital, the government, or take the entrepreneurial path. Risk starting a company to do what you're passionate about. In this startup path, you can focus on impacting society and impacting it at scale. How many patients can a physician see in a day or in a year? Will a basic scientist discovery be replicated, then validated, then picked up and commercially translated, and so on? Contrast those paths with Moderna and BioNTech, startups less than 15 years ago that have literally changed the world. Moderna's founding principle that the human body could make its own medicine was considered outlandishly futuristic at the time. And in just a decade, the scientific idea went from outrageous to obvious to life-saving. What if they'd never taken the risk? Where would we be as a world today? Some of you have already chosen to be an entrepreneur, and congratulations on that choice. I hope we've taught you things that will help you succeed. And there are some of you who are on the fence or even haven't seriously considered this path. And it's mainly to you that I'm speaking. Being an entrepreneur is hard. It takes a certain phenotype, and only 4% of the population have it. Many entrepreneurs describe themselves as misfits. They don't belong in the world of large organizations. They're at their best when they're putting out fires. They're adrenaline junkies who may be found surfing, skydiving, racing, or rock climbing. They bring a sense of dynamic energy to their interactions with others and to the world around them. They assess situations quickly and move adeptly to respond to immediate problems with practical solutions. They're impatient. They always question the status quo. And every day in a startup is different. Some are highs, some are lows. And the entrepreneurs I know say they wouldn't do anything else. It's been the best experience of their lives. Do you remember when Corey Nicholas, CEO and co-founder of Neurona Therapeutics, said in class, "I'm living the dream. It's hard, but it's in line with my soul and passion, and I can't turn it off." For those of you contemplating the startup route, think about lifestyle. How do you want to live your life? Do you want work-life balance? To end the working day at 5 p.m. and not check email at night or first thing in the morning? Do you want to spend your weekends away from the computer? Don't become an entrepreneur. Or are you hot to do a startup to pursue your passion? You will never fully disconnect from work because work is your essence. You'll work some crazy hours if that's what it takes. You don't have to work, you want to work. Work is something you aspire to, not something to escape. Let me share the story of Charity Dean, a government official who became an entrepreneur. You've probably never heard of her unless you read Michael Lewis's new book, Premonition, about the pandemic and the US response, or rather, appalling lack of response. Charity, Assistant Director of the California Department of Public Health, had figured out in January 2020 that COVID could infect millions. That was before most people knew COVID existed. And nobody was doing anything about it. Not the CDC, not the White House, not the California state government where she worked. And nobody would listen to her. She connected with a group of 7 doctors who had once worked in the White House, no official capacity currently, but were de facto leading our pandemic response. And at the behest of this group, she wrote a pandemic strategy. She got it into the White House and was invited to fly to DC and present it to Jared Kushner. At the last minute, the White House canceled, and Trump rolled out a plan that was never implemented. It was only a few months after that, in July 2020, that Charity quit a 20-year job in public health, her career. She realized government couldn't save the country. It didn't know how to move quickly and think out of the box. It wasn't innovative, it wasn't fast, but she discovered capitalism can be. Silicon Valley technology and entrepreneurship are designed for this. It was a huge personal turnaround. She needed to start a company. It was a leap. She was an MD, MPH with no background in business or Silicon Valley. She'd show up to meetings in a suit, the only person professionally attired in a room full of jeans and hoodies. After the initial intimidation of the Valley, she was shocked to discover she was just as smart and capable as the entrenched Silicon Valley people, and she was qualified to start a company. It's like the first day of medical school, she told me, where everyone except her went to Princeton, Yale, Harvard, or Stanford. And by day 2 or 3, she discovered success wasn't based on how inherently smart you are. It's based on grit, hard work, and humility, not knowing all the answers. When I spoke to Charity last Sunday, the first thing she said was, I knew nothing when I started this company. Her company is the public health company, seeded by venture capital, to build a biosecurity intelligence platform that couldn't be accomplished in the public sector. I asked how she defined grit. She'd been kicked out of pre-med and was told she'd clearly be a failure in science. She came from a poor family where no one had gone to college. She had to figure out how to get into med school, how to get a loan, and she picked herself up out of the dirt and did it. She said, there's no shortcut to grit. It's mental fortitude that you will fricking figure it out. That's a direct quote. It's muscle memory of face down in the dirt moments. She had a passion to build a biosecurity path which could head off the next pandemic. Without this, she said, we don't have a fighting chance. If I had to fly to the moon, I'd figure out how to do it. If you had that passion, could you do what Charity did? Her startup has developed a platform for businesses, healthcare providers, and public health systems that combines real-time public health data, containment best practices, and genomic epidemiologists to prevent, detect, and contain costly disease outbreaks. The company has been featured in the New York Times, the BBC, 60 Minutes, Forbes, and CNN. It has customers and it's expanding. It has $8 million in seed capital from investors such as Venrock and Verily, which is Google. So here are 3 lessons from Charity's story. Number 1, do what you love. Everything will fall in place if you keep that thought as your North Star. Number 2, make a difference in the world. Work on something that matters and scale it for impact. Number 3, you need grit to succeed. There's a reason immigrants are over 50% of Silicon Valley CEOs. They had to struggle to get where they are. And one of my favorite bosses had been a skinny kid who carried his violin in the school bus in gang-infested New York City, taunted and periodically beat up. It's that grit that will get you through the hard times as an entrepreneur. I'll leave you with a quote from Steve Jobs' famous 2005 Stanford commencement speech. He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." It has been a pleasure to share my knowledge and to get to know you over the past few months. Through this class, you have joined a powerful worldwide network. Use it, stay in touch, start something important. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Stephanie.